Welcome everybody to today's group workshop on what do I say next? That has to do with business relations. If you go into the LinkedIn group, it's under hashtag business relations. So most of you guys know the groundwork, being interactive with the audience to make this more effective for you guys. If you had actual examples or experiences, please feel free to unmute yourself and just jump into the conversation. So general considerations, I do this with every meeting that we have. Job search is an art. So it's not a specific science, so to speak. You have to try like different things. Number one, you have to do what works for you. When you listen to somebody else saying that it worked for them, take it into consideration, but always take any advice with a grain of salt, which ties directly into check mark number two. This is your job search, therefore it's your call. Whatever you put in your resume, whatever advice that you take that you want to apply, take full responsibility for it from the standpoint of moving forward. I know that most of the people on this call are practicing this exactly, that you are taking, you're taking charge of your own personal job search. So kudos to you guys. The last bullet that I want to bring into the picture, I always like to repeat this because whether we're speaking resume, LinkedIn, cover letter, interview, or reaching out, the topic that we have today, doing cold outreach in creating business relationships, it's always truly, truly important to have the perspective of your audience, whether it be the reader of your resume, of your LinkedIn, or be it the listener from you speaking to them as an interviewee. So always, always be thinking from the other person's perspective, and that will serve you greatly. Most of the people on this group, you're already part of the Illinois Tech Career Services group. I'm mentioning this to some of the folks who are still not part of the LinkedIn Career Services group. Please connect with me and we will get you into the group. Otherwise, let's just
sorry to interrupt you, but I think we can't see your screen.
Oh man, thank you for interrupting me. I appreciate that, Nandish.
I can see it now.
Yes, you can. That's the problem when I do split screens. I was thinking I shared it, and that's why I did tech changes earlier. So just to backtrack, we were talking about the Career Services group. So the approach that we're talking about today, that's related to the hashtag business relations in the index from the LinkedIn group. We're talking about an approach that's focused on reaching out into companies. And within the companies, you obviously have the people that you're talking to. Be they you met them at the career fair or you spoke to them somewhere. What we're really trying to do in a nutshell is to find advocates who could help you in your job search. So design principles. This is usually like the starting point that we want to begin with because students will cover the wrong way of how to do this. But number one, is your approach short? Number two, is it designed? Is it worded specifically and very thoughtfully such that you are planning on eliciting some sort of response from who you're sending it to that lays the foundation for a conversation? In order to create the business relationship, there has to be the back and forth. Without the back and forth, there is no business relationship. So like I said, aside from number one category that it has to be short, number two, it has to be designed, and you have to thoughtfully create your messaging such that you're thinking that whatever you're saying, it's kind of expecting a response from who you're talking to and that you're laying the groundwork. And number three, this is the biggest mistake that students do, or actually anybody on LinkedIn. They don't have to be students. One of the biggest things that people do is to make a request immediately in their very first response. So that being said, let's jump into, I forgot one thing. I forgot to ask you guys, experiences so that I knew who was on the call. I guess I want to hear from you guys. Talk to me about your experiences with your reaching out to people that you know, you don't know, or even alumni. I'll leave Jason maybe. Jason could start this because Jason was actually one of the first students who I shared this information with, and he ran with the information. So let's see if anybody raises their hand before Jason. Otherwise, we'd like to hear from you, Jason, if you can speak. I know Yasha said this was kind of like brand new to her. Nandish, it looks like you just unmuted. What did you have in mind?
Yeah, so basically I have like maybe more than couple of times this thing is happening to me. So after the last career fair, I tried to reach out to some companies, and to be honest, I didn't write anything which was like, asking them about their company or maybe asking them about their role, but it was basically just asking them about the internship that I was applying for. And at the end, I did not get any response from them. And then we talked, then I talked to you, and I also commented on one post about a job, sorry, about an internship from the same company. And basically it was just interested, while I think I should have written something more, but I couldn't figure out at the time on what exactly to write. So at the end, I didn't get a reply from them in their DM. I mean, whatever that is on LinkedIn, or I didn't get any reply in the comment section. So basically, I guess, yeah, the first impression was like, oh, this guy is just asking for some help, or maybe like uh, he's not giving anything. Only I'll be giving something.
Yes.
So I guess that would be
Yes.
the first impression, and she just won't reply.
Yeah, very good realization. Edilson's raising his hand. He had a comment on Nandish's comment. Go ahead,
No,
Edilson.
no, no, no. I wanted to also give my contribute, like my
Okay,
experience.
hang on a second. Let me just comment on Nandish's and then we'll go to you, okay? Is that okay, Edilson?
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
All right, cool. So Nandish was saying, just let me frame what he just said. So Nandish, I'm assuming that these were people that you met at the career fair. You reached out to them, and then you were asking specifically about the internship, and your result was there was no response. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
So let's take a look at that for a second. So think about it. Put yourself in the shoes of the people who were at Illinois Tech's career fair. You saw how crazy it was, and you saw the number of resumes, the number of conversations, and I bet there was probably like 100 Nandishas who were probably doing the same thing, reaching out on LinkedIn, asking about the jobs, which totally makes sense. And by gut instinct, that's the first thing that you want to do. However, if job search is all about standing out, question to the group, was Nandish standing out? And the answer is a resounding no. So are we surprised that he didn't get any responses? No, we're not surprised. Nandish also said that there was the opportunity in one of the people that he saw who was actually posting on LinkedIn. So he was very good in that he found an opportunity to like move the conversation, or what I like to call another touch, so that Nandish was top of mind to the person that he was trying to get in front of. So he was thinking that a post on LinkedIn was a good way to do that. And that's what he was sharing on the call right now, because I happened to see his comment, and Nandish's comment to what that person had on LinkedIn was simply interested. I go back to what I said earlier. If job search is all about standing out, number one, Nandish had the platform to himself, and he did not take advantage of the airtime that he had. So that's when I made a comment to him saying, that was kind of like wasted, where you just said interested. You could actually have had the opportunity to differentiate yourself right there in sharing why they should be talking to you. So great share, Nandish. We'll talk about that some more. So Edilson, oh, was there anything you wanted to add to that, Nandish?
No, that was it. I was just basically asking, like, I had like couple of LinkedIn posts, but I couldn't figure out what should I write, or like what things I should mention, like other than interested. So you said, right, we're gonna discuss this later, so that's fine.
Yes, we are. So let me give you a little clue. Some of you guys have gone through the resume workshop. Some of you guys have had one-on-one conversations with me wherein we spoke about creating the summary as like, again, everything that we speak about at Career Services is interrelated. When we spoke about elevator pitch, when we spoke about summary, these are all about you guys in that we're bringing out the best in you. So just a little clue from you guys, if you spent some time in the summary such that that was like the biggest bang as far as you were concerned, I would have posted some version of the summary that I have in the resume in that LinkedIn post. So just a clue for you. We can get into that some more, but that's like the first thing that comes to mind for me. Instead of saying interested, had I put something that was in my summary that kind of like make it conversational, because obviously it's not a resume. You have to be considerate of what the platform is. I would put in some version of the summary because I already went through that, thinking of how I stand out. That's already in your summary. So Karthik, you know this from our conversation just a few minutes just before this meeting. The summary is meant for you to stand out, and that's why we were giving you methodologies as how to create that and make it more powerful. So my suggestion to Nandish right now, and I'm connecting it for you, Karthik, is if you're doing that work in your resume, Nandish could have put some version of that somewhere in the LinkedIn post. So we'll talk some more about that. Is that cool, Nandish?
Yep, got it.
Awesome. Edilson, you had a comment or question? Floor is
Now,
yours.
I wanted to tell my personal experience regarding to like approaching people. For example, when I tried to like
Okay, hang
approach
on,
people.
Edilson. Edilson, let me just give our audience right here a little bit of background. Edilson is a first year, which program again?
Computer science, computer science.
Computer science, first year computer science. However, what I know that you guys on the call don't know is Edilson has been dabbling in entrepreneurship in Mozambique before he came to Illinois Tech. So I'm kind of like giving that background to the listeners right now, so we know where Edilson is coming from with the comment he's about to give us. So go ahead, Edilson.
Thank you, thank you. So I have a company there in Mozambique, and when I was searching for more clients and I wanted to meet like business investors and future potential clients, I would try to approach them, but because they are very busy and they are approached by a lot of people, I will try to like make an impact. Before like jumping into my request, I will try to engage with them by like complimenting their work, like, oh, I admire you so much. How do you do this? And because every person likes to talk about themselves so much, so when you ask, he will keep now talking to you, and after you feel like you created an engagement with them, then you jump to the request, and potentially he won't deny it, he won't say no, because he felt the connection with you. He seemed like you're a really nice guy, you're doing great things, and then he end up accepting and like even recommending me to other people because he liked me. So sometimes we need to like show our personality. If he likes our personality a lot, usually he will accept everything that we ask. That's how it works.
That's an awesome share, Edilson. I guess we
Thank
can end this call right now because that's what I'm covering today.
you. Sorry.
Thank you for that share. I want to go back to the team who heard what Edilson just shared. What did you learn from Edilson's share? I want to hear from Karthik, Yasha, Neil, and Jason.
Yeah, let me go. So I had a similar experience what Edilson had, right? So when I did share that to you as well, Bernie. So when you talk about, suppose a Medium article or whatever the things they are doing, right? When when you reach out to them regarding that, they'll be more open to share that rather than just talking about, hey, I want to do an internship in your company. Can you refer that? I think I'll second Edilson's approach as well. So I'll be definitely following that.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome, Karthik. Thank you for sharing. Others?
I'll go. I think I had never thought of it this way. So I think this is like a new approach to build a solid foundation first before asking for referrals.
Yes, absolutely. So just to give you a little bit of background, Yasha, Karthik was in my office a few minutes ago. So we just picked some random person at Facebook.
Okay.
So when we took a look at the profile of the person, it showed like a leader or something like that. And I'm like, Karthik, just from that standpoint of leader, it sounds like they're in some capacity to hire. So yes, they would be a good person that I would want to connect with. And then we went to the activity portion, and it looks like this person wasn't active on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
from the perspective of what we're trying to do, in that Nandish tried to do this in one of the other comments that he said earlier, he found that this person was posting. So in this person that Karthik and I saw on LinkedIn, there wasn't that opportunity. However, when we click somewhere on their profile, aside from their URL to LinkedIn, they had a Medium URL, which means they're contributing on Medium.
Okay.
So we're just giving you some other ideas that it's truly just like when you research a company before you go to an interview, the same research applies to what we're doing when we're talking about business relations. So that person that Karthik was speaking about, we found them that they had a Medium URL. So if Karthik was hot in pursuit of that person, they would go to Medium, take a look at what they're posting out there, and try to do what Nandish was doing on LinkedIn on Medium. Make
Okay.
sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Cool. Other questions or comments? This is a really good discussion. So that's awesome. Other comments on what Edilson shared from Neil or Jason? Otherwise, we can move forward. Okay, they're not jumping on, so maybe they can't speak.
No, I mean, so to summarize, I believe it was like making a first good impression, and then, which basically is the starting point for us to, have a connection and then slowly move on to the stuff that we actually want to talk about.
Yes, very good, Neil. That was a very good capture of what we were talking about. So with that said, let me jump into the next slide, and let me go back to the screen, make sure that you guys are seeing it. So just to go back to what we said earlier, design principles, whatever your initial contact is, it has to be short. And number two, it has to be worded to elicit a response so that you're laying the groundwork for eventual back and forth, i.e. the conversation, and do not make an immediate request. So speaking of the request, there is a wrong way to do this. And I would like to go to a post back in the LinkedIn group. And this will kind of like teach you guys how to do this as well. So I'm going back to the LinkedIn group. And within career services, lately, we've just been peppering all the posts with the index. So it's easy for anybody to find. I'm in the index right now, going through business relations. Can you guys see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm going to the post that says wrong way. So based on what Edilson just shared earlier, I want you guys to tell me what's going on here. So apparently the student was speaking to this data science manager at Google, and this was the approach of the student. What are your thoughts?
Basically, the recruiter doesn't know about her, and she's just giving out her information about what she wants and what she's doing, rather than maybe connecting with the recruiter first and getting to know her first. And once they have like good connection, they can ask this thing.
Very good observation, Nandish. And what did this person do in the second paragraph?
The person is asking if the person at Google is available for a quick chat. I think that it kind of makes sense to me, because then you can talk to the person and get to know them better.
Okay.
So
It makes sense from the standpoint, if in a perfect world, all this person was doing was waiting, listening for this request, it makes sense that you can get to what you want. However, Does this data science manager know this person to begin with? The answer
No,
is no.
no,
And number
no,
two,
no.
how many of this types of messages do you think this data manager has been receiving, wanting a few minutes of their time?
Probably a million.
Exactly. So is this person standing out? No.
No.
And should this person be surprised that they did not get any response? They shouldn't
No.
be. Very good observations. Thanks for sharing, Yasha. So that being
Okay.
said, let me jump into, again, this goes back to business relations, and this is what I was talking about. Yasha and Edilson just got introduced to this information via the index. Let me go through the actual index right now. So we have all sorts of approaches here, and I guess I want you guys' feedback. Just be light with it. It's like just having conversation with this person. So Eden was a person that I was, she was the coordinator or the lead for whatever this organization I was going to a conference with. And take a look at what I said in my connection request. What are your thoughts about what I said? This happened to be around the 4th of July. Is it short? Yes. Is it worded to elicit a response? Normally, face-to-face, if I said, hey, Yasha, happy 4th, what would be Yasha's response?
I'd probably reply with the same thing.
Exactly. So that's kind of like an easy thing, okay? There's kind of like pros and cons to certain messaging, but I'm just giving you guys some ideas of what can be done, all right? So let me go to connection request number 2, email. This was email. And I think I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and I asked them, this was an email that was sent out to a student that I was trying to connect with. So Bernie Floresca applies the principles that he talks about to his outreach as well. Granted that I have a different audience, the same principles apply in my outreach as well to whomever, all right? So in this case, I was reaching out to a new student because I needed something from them. I could have asked them immediately. I could have pulled rank saying, you know, you're a student, I'm an employee, you know, give me what I need. I could have approached it like that, right? But that's not the way to get things done. So if you noticed, in the subject, I was very specific. Clue number 1, when you're using email, using the person's name is music to the other person's ears. So guess what I had in the subject? I had the person's name. And then lesson number 2 that I did in the subject, I name dropped. Both she and I report to BJ, our boss. So I name dropped and put BJ's name in the subject. Okay, just give you 2 tips right there. Use the person's first name and name drop if it's possible. And then I did the same approach, and I wish them a happy 4th. Questions about the 2 that we've shared so far? Without that, I'm going to number 3. These are all examples that you guys can see. Steve Dalton is the author of the book, The 2-Hour Job Search. Apparently, Dalton was invited to Illinois Tech. I went to BJ's office one day. I saw his books over there, and I'm like, okay, let me reach out to Steve. So the top, where you see the first message, is what I sent them in the connection request. So I said, hey, Steve, I'm applying my principles. I'm using their name. I saw your book in my boss's office, just read a summary. What do you think worked? It obviously worked because you see that Steve accepted my connection request and he replied. But what do you think worked with the message, the initial message that I said? I said, hey, Steve, saw your book in my boss's office, just read a summary. What was good about that message? Go ahead, Nandish.
Yeah, so I guess first thing was like in my boss office, kind of looks like, you know, a bigger person or like uh, I mean, a boss have your book, a boss of some company have your book in his office, then it might be something. And then you didn't mention which book. So then he was like wondering like which book might be in his boss office. So, and again, then you mentioned you read a summary, and since you are messaging him, the summary must be good. So he can't just like ignore your message. He would be wondering all day like which book was in your boss office, or like which book did you read.
Very good take, Nandish. So did I accomplish bullet number 2, where we said, It was designed to elicit a response, and that lays the foundation for a conversation to occur. Very good takeaways, Nandish. Any others with comments?
I would like to say that you made it. You made him. Your message was so compelling that he was forced to write about it to reply you. So and you, as Nandish mentioned, that you left it on a cliffhanger. So we are that sort of human beings that we don't like to we don't like cliffhangers. So we try to find it about more about it.
Yes, absolutely. Great comment. Thanks for joining us, Bhavesh.
Yeah. Sorry, I was late.
miss
I was
you,
in a
Jay.
lecture.
Yeah, no worries. I realize you guys are jumping from class to class or whatever student commitments you have. So that's another reason why we record this. So take a look at Steve's response. He goes like, which book did you spot? Either way, I hope you find it compelling, contrarian enough to be interesting and worth your time. And I said 2 hour. And then I kind of like left it at that. If Steve was somebody that I wanted to pursue, I would have said something else, which incidentally, there is an update to this. So Steve Dalton. Let me share this with the group because we were invited as Career Services to speak about his book for biomedical engineering last Friday, and I continue the conversation. Did you guys notice that? Did you notice everything that Steve sent to me without even reading what it was? So the last message that we saw was 2 hour, right? I didn't share the rest of the information, but since Steve replied, Nandish, you had something to say?
No.
Oh, okay, so he said the OG. And then I was like, OG, because I didn't know what that was. And then he said the first book. Notice how we're going back and forth. Again, if I wanted to pursue a relationship with Steve, I would continue on this. But obviously, I wasn't hot on his trail. So I kind of said, woohoo, 2012. And then I left it at that. And then on October 13th, which is fairly recent, I kind of like dripped on them again, so to speak. And I said, hey, Steve, check this out. Info from Career Services request for our biomedical engineering department. So what do you think I was trying to do here with the information that I shared? There's two things that I want you to take out of this message for the purposes of our conversation right now. What are the two things? Go ahead, Jay. Thanks for joining us. Jay, was that a comment? So I repeat the question. This part where I said students voted to have the topic all the way to connections, and I put it in quotation marks. What two things did I do right?
Can I answer that?
Please.
Okay, so I think the first thing was you obviously mentioned about his book and you complimented it that the students have quoted
Complimented.
it.
Very good
So-
catch, Yasha. I was complimenting him by saying, hey, guess what? The students are asking about you. Nice observation. You got 1 out of 2. You going for 2 out of 2, Yasha?
Yes. And then you also asked him if he has any other resources that he can share, which incidentally will
Perfect.
be more of his own material so that he can promote his own work, which
Perfect.
kind of, puts you into good books with him, saying that, I mean, he knows
Yes.
you're like ready to publicize his work. So he will be definitely down for elongating that conversation so that, I mean, it's the best for both parties, right?
Perfect. So I'm glad you caught both of those, Yasha. Thank you so much for sharing that. So
Thank
you see how we have to be very thoughtful about what we say, because what we really want is the back and forth. So very nice catch, Yasha. I'm not going to go through what else Steve said out here because that kind of like made that point that we did for this call. Any other comments aside from Yasha? Otherwise, I'm going to the next example. This is a standard message for people because I'm kind of like out there with the way I'm messaging people. I kind of like try to create a relationship and I'm just being myself. Okay. That's the other thing about these messages. Maybe my approach may not be your approach because it doesn't fit your personality. This happens to be my personality. So you kind of like notice the ways I've been sending messages out. So this is one of the students, Akil, and he sent me a connection request. And take a look at what Akil said. He was more formal and he said, hey, Bernie, with like the standard stuff that you have in a letter that we're taught, right? The salutation, the body, and then best regards, and all that. He was more formal with this. But what I like about it is, number one, it was short. What else was good about this message?
He's mentioned what his major is.
Okay. So he's giving some information, but he's not giving me a lot of information, right? So that it satisfies being short. Awesome. What else?
Junior graduate.
I'm sorry?
He says
Please,
he's
your-
happy to come. Sorry.
He's happy to connect. Yes, absolutely.
Which year he is in, junior graduate?
Yes. So they're giving some information, but they're not giving all sorts of information about them, unlike that previous message that we saw earlier, right? So again, like I said, the whole intent of going through this painstakingly so that you have ideas of what to do. We already covered name drop in the email. How about this? I want to cover
Hey,
this.
Bunny, I have a question regarding the last request.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, since say you are the say career services guy, you'll be receiving thousands of message, and literally everyone would be saying like, "Hi, your name and what I am doing and what's my major, and I'll be happy to connect with you." So it's
Mhm.
basically the same thing. I mean, I'm saying like literally everyone would be connecting with you, saying the same message. So what was the standout point for him?
Actually, at the time, it was simple, straight to the point is what I liked. And just FYI, being in career services, since I'm telling students to connect with me, I was going to accept it anyway, whether it was worded good or bad. But to your point, I like the format that he acknowledged me, used the first name, gave me short nuggets of information about him, and then he just signed it with his name. That's kind of like what worked for them. It may be a different situation for somebody who's not in career services. So it really depends on who you're speaking to. But to your point, being in career services and asking students to connect with me, I would have connected anyway. Does that kind of
Obviously, I
answer your
mean,
question?
yeah, I got it.
Cool. Other questions before I go to the next case study? This case study you'll probably enjoy more because this is a person who popped up on my LinkedIn and happens to work for Tesla. So can you guys see the screen?
Not that.
Oh, sorry. Now you can, right?
Yes.
So Aaron is a recruiter at Tesla. He just showed up in my screen and I'm like, why not? And this is the message that came to me at that point in time. So did I use the person's first name? Always. And then I said a greeting, right? Which was kind of like an extension of the happy 4th that we heard earlier. So happy 4th, you don't have to wait for holidays. It's happy any day. Happy Monday, happy Tuesday, happy whatever. All right. And then what do you guys think of my last sentence?
You said something that outstanded you from like everyone. Like you kind of said something really different from, and you kind of made him. I think you made him really interested in what you were going to say next. So I think it was really good sentence.
Cool. Good observation, Edilson. From others? So Nandish, my point of showing Akhil's connect request earlier was to show like the standard of what we usually think a connection request message should look like, okay? Because Akhil was kind of like coloring within the lines, if you will. And that's what we expect from the formalities, you know, student, employer relationship, that sort of stuff. I'm trying to teach you guys that it's okay to inject your personality in your outreaches to people on LinkedIn. And it's become a locale actually where it's okay to be yourself and it's actually embraced. So I'm just giving you different ideas. And to Edilson's point, he kind of like saw it then. The way that I just said out there like made me stand up based on what I said. So update for you guys about Aaron. Aaron, by the way, did not accept my connection request for a month. All right. So a heads up to you guys, when you put in requests, people could also be legitimately busy. So if they're not responding to you, that doesn't mean they didn't want to connect with you. If this was somebody that I truly wanted to connect with, Aaron, for example, if I truly wanted to connect, in my case, I do kind of want to connect with Aaron because he's a recruiter at Tesla. So I want to open up those inroads as well for on behalf of the students. So when he didn't respond, this is what Bernie did. So he finally accepted after a month. All right. And then I'm going to teach you guys something really quick out here. So Aaron, happy Monday. You see my original message. And then guess what I said after he accepted? I think I taught somebody about this. Jay, was it you that I taught this to? No, Jay's not even on the call.
No,
Oh, yeah.
this is we haven't talked about this. Like
I haven't talked to you about it. Okay. So here's another tactic that I'm teaching, dropping for you guys right now. When somebody's very busy and then they accept your connection request and then they don't say anything, the tactic for me is to say something as simple as thanks. Sometimes I even abbreviate it and I say capital T, H, and X to indicate thanks. What do you think the motivation is for doing that? I want to hear from the group.
Probably show that you have like you've acknowledged the fact that they have accepted your connect.
Okay, that's number one. That's the obvious one. Can you
Okay.
think of something not obvious?
You just want to start a conversation with them. So you need to write at least something. You can just go all in and ask anything. So you wrote
I
thanks
pretty much
first
could,
and
actually. To your point, Neil, I could have said something else, but I specifically chose to just say thanks, and it's strategic. I want you guys to catch the strategy.
Yeah, I think when you said that you sometimes write THAX, that really tells them that you type the word thanks, because the other times it's very automated. You can reply it directly from the notification bar, and that shows them that you are. It's like you typed it in. Give the attention to the accept of the request.
Okay, I like that answer, Neil, but I actually wasn't thinking about that to like make it sound that I wasn't automated, but yeah, that could be an interpretation, but that wasn't my motivation. So that was a good shot, Neil. Others, before I tell you what the motivation is.
Gratitude.
I'm sorry?
Gratitude.
It is kind of gratitude, but I have an ulterior motive aside from gratitude.
Okay.
I
You
think
guys ready
it's
for
like
it?
you wanted to show them that you are actually like you actually wanted to connect with them, and it was not just random connect requests that you were sending out to everyone. So even after they accepted your request after a month or two, if you send thanks, then they know that you are really interested into that connection, and not just like
Okay.
you don't even remember them connecting like 2 months ago.
Okay, that could be a plausible explanation, but that's not quite it. So let me
Okay.
share with you.
Let me. Can I try again?
All right, Yasha, go for it.
Probably it shows that you're paying attention to them, that you're looking up their profile, looking at their impressive track record. So
Actually, no.
okay.
But nice try, Yasha. And I like the spirit. She's not gonna stop until she gets the answer right. So take a look at this. The person connected with me on October 11th, which is a Tuesday. I replied immediately because it doesn't show a different date, okay, on the 11th. So when you send a message that says THX, number one, I'm acknowledging the person. To your point earlier, I'm also, being grateful that they accepted me, but I could have said something else. Say, hey, thank you so much for accepting my connection request, blah, 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 but I didn't. The reason I simply said thanks is I'm actually nudging them. I'm like, hey, can I get the courtesy of a reply? I thoughtfully said something nice to you, and all you did was connect to me without a response. So in other words, I was kind of like doing this to them by saying thanks, by being short myself, because they, essentially were being short themselves. They just connected, but they didn't say anything. Reactions.
Yeah, but I mean, say if he was not active for like 1 or 2 weeks, then he might have thousands of requests, and he might be just going through like his requests and connecting. It
Very
might be a
good,
case.
actually. And Nandish, that's actually what happened. That's actually what happened. Because if you notice, October 11th was last week. So last Thursday would have been Thursday, which was yesterday, which would have been the 20th. So over a week, he didn't reply to the thanks. But here's a little bit of inside information to you guys, okay? I've been doing marketing operations for about over 2 years before I came to Illinois Tech, applying these same principles that I'm teaching you guys right now. So whenever I was doing outreach and then somebody did exactly what Aaron did, they kind of like accepted it, but didn't say anything. Thanks has been a method for me to get some sort of response from them. In this case, to your point, Nandish, it didn't work because he is very busy. Because if you take a look down here, Aaron has 82,000 followers. So I bet I'm not the only one who did that. So if usually if they're not as busy as Aaron, this thanks or THX usually works for them to have the back and forth. They will kind of say something. In this particular case, it didn't work, but let me tell you what I did directly afterwards. So very good catch there, Nandish. Any other comments to what I just shared with you as to this tactic using the word thanks and the rationale behind it? Okay, no other comments. So I take it you got what I said. So to Nandish's point, Aaron was very busy, but last Thursday or whatever, I saw that Aaron had a post and I actually did something with Aaron's post. All activity isn't going to do it. I want to see what he posted. That's not it. Oh, here. This was the post I said something to. Notice that Aaron posted 1 day ago, which was yesterday, Thursday. 1,264 comments. Here's the other tactic that I think I taught some of you guys. You go into comments. You take a look at what people have done with their comments and look for people who tagged the person that you want to be in front of. In this case, it's not showing. So I did a two-pronged approach. So long story short, it's not showing up for the purposes of our discussion. You know how people are being tagged out here? Some of these responses, I think I found 1 or 2 that tagged Aaron. So one of the things that happens when you have somebody tagged in a message like this, and I click like, let's just say I click like right now, whoever is tagged in that comment gets a notification that Bernie Floresca liked this. If I like this right now, and I'm going to do it just for the purposes of this discussion, because I like this, Martina is going to get a notification that Bernie Floresca liked this comment. So what I was trying to show you guys, and the tactic that I did last Thursday, was I looked for a message that actually tagged Aaron, and I liked it, just like I showed you guys. It's kind of like very under the radar, if you will, but I'm using the principles that I'm sharing with you right now. I didn't directly comment to Aaron. I didn't directly tag Aaron, but I like somebody who tagged Aaron. And then I followed it up with a message. And my message said, as you're seeing on the screen, impressive number of followers, Aaron. How long did you build that? And he responded. So if I want to continue having conversations with Aaron, I'm just giving you guys some ideas as to how to get in front of people. So I'm going to stop that here right now for some reactions from you guys. And time-wise, we're 3/4 of the hour. Let's hear some reactions so far. You guys learning anything?
Yes, it's how to build a conversation effectively.
Good. Thanks for the feedback, Yasha.
You're welcome.
Others?
Actually, yeah, these are things that I am actually not most familiar with. Like you are sharing your ideas, and we can actually apply these things in our upcoming upcoming job search, so that these will be very effective when we really apply those things.
Yes, very good. So I kind of like taught you using the person's first name dropping. I taught you how to tag them. I taught you how to be different in what you're saying, but it had to be very thoughtful so that it's eliciting a response. What else have I taught you guys today? What did I miss? That's it? Nothing else?
Think so.
I'll open it up for questions for the rest of the remainder of the time. And then we'll have another session that addresses something else. My hope is that after this session, that you guys, as a core group of people, start applying, reaching out to people, and then starting to doing what I did. Because a lot of you have done the first step where you reached out to the person. So I want you guys to actually get stuck where the person isn't responding, et cetera, so that we could come up with ways to get in front of them, to be on their radar, is my hope for the next workshop. So the way we do these workshops is I give you a concept, you apply it. Give you a concept, you apply it. And the hope is that you kind of get stuck somewhere there so we can learn from you getting stuck and workshop the approach. So to finish this off, I guess I don't want to give you any more information. I'd rather answer some questions right now in preparation for the following session. So what questions do you guys have?
I have a question. So how do we target people? Like if I want to work at Google, do I just search for recruiters at Google and do I send them notifications? Is that how it works?
Actually, that's very good. I'm glad you said that, Yasha, because it's bringing up a post that I've been meaning to share with a group that I haven't done yet. And let's see if I can find it quickly. I should have queued it. So Yasha's question is, how do I find those people? What I'm about to share, I'll answer your question in two ways. You guys are seeing my screen right now, seeing my comments that I'm making. I'm looking for one specific post that answers Yasha's question. And it was a post that I had I know I forgot this stuff. I was trying to mention it. It doesn't look like it's coming, and I wish I had queued it up for this discussion. Look out for this in the group because I will share it. And I'm going to tag all of you guys who are on this call so that you catch it. But the way we're talking about business relations right now is kind of like all theoretical, if you will. There's kind of like a bigger picture that we're trying to accomplish. But the post that I wanted to share with you was a person who actually went through the steps, of which Yasha's question is the first step. She's like, okay, how do I get to all these companies and what do you do? So I'm kind of like putting a plug in for this post that I'm going to be putting in the LinkedIn group fairly shortly. And then as soon as you get it, it's going to answer Yasha's question. And then let's continue some of this discussion and those comments later. But I want to share that with you. But to give you something more specific right now, in the absence of that share, I'm going to direct you to this business relations. You guys see my screen, right?
Yes.
So this part here that says connect contacts Google Sheets template. So what you want to do is I gave you something that you could start with. Some of you guys probably already have this because it's a simple Google Sheets. So you could just create something like this. It's a black job search lead. You kind of like put the name of the person, you put their, you kind of put their URL. And then you see what I'm putting out here on the right-hand side. I have notes for 2022. So like, for example, I have this in reverse order. You can create your own methodology as to what to do with this. So notice that I sent the connect request on July 1st. And then I made a note to myself that I made a connect request. And then on the July 6th, I actually followed that person. Okay. When you make the connect request and they don't respond, when you follow them the next time, they get another notification that my name, that Bernie Floresca followed them. So from the perspective of being in front of them, they know that Bernie Floresca, aside from putting in the connection request, is trying to follow them. And then 7/10, I liked some posts. And then on the 11th, they accepted. So you guys get the idea of what we're trying to do, right? So more specifically to answer your question, Yasha, about how do you pick the companies that you select, it kind of goes back to the discussion that we had in that call that you were on yesterday. It's kind of like introspection. Who are the companies that you want? Start making a list of who those companies are and then start doing
Okay.
your research.
Okay. I do have another question as well.
Go ahead.
How does this notes, like what's the purpose? Like why are we noting down this timeline? How is it of use to us?
Very good question. I come from a sales background. So from
Okay.
sales background, this is all we do, right? You reach out to prospects, which is kind of like the same thing that you guys are doing. You are actually prospecting employers. So from the sales standpoint, I was trying to make some sales. So it's all about business relationships. And this is where the business relationship spin comes for you guys in your job search. I was prospecting for clients. You guys are prospecting for employers. Same thing. And
Okay.
it's all about business relations. If I don't know what I did or I said to that customer the last time, there is no continuity in trying to build that relationship.
Okay. Got it.
Those notes were made specifically for me so that, I mean, I don't have to reach out to them every day. You have to give it time to evolve, etc. Right? So it has to be on like an organic outreach. So that's why the notes, to answer your question, Yasha, makes it
Yes.
look organic and it gives me a clue as to what I said last, so I know where to pick up from to continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Good question. Good question.
Rani, I believe that for Yasha's first question, I believe you were searching for the day 2 of the business relations.
Day 2, no, actually, I haven't shared this post yet. I've been meaning to share it for the last 3 days. What that share is, Bhavesh, is actually a student. Actually, this was a career coach who had a client in a specific field. I think it was like social services or whatever. It showed how the student went through what I'm trying to teach you guys about business
Okay.
relationships. They created the target list of their audience, and then they did this and did that. And then they did something very specific towards the middle that made them a prime person to be
Mhm.
spoken to. And I will point that out in the post. Expect it before the end of the day.
Sure, because
But thank you for sharing that, Bhavesh.
because the second day of business relationship, it talked about like how you used Google Notes and OneNote for keeping your the kind of thing that you template that you showed about that, and
Yeah.
For searching, like if you have a free account on LinkedIn, how can you leverage Google to search the kind of job relations you are looking for, job role you're looking for, and the people that are already working in that role. So I thought that to answer Yasha's first question, like how do you find people on like for the same job role, or do you directly start connecting with them? So I thought that it answers some part of that question.
Yes, yes, it does, actually. Yes, it does. Yasha, did you get some of that communication from Bhavesh?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
Ask him questions. What wasn't clear?
Really everything.
Okay, Bhavesh actually has some inside information because he's talking about some additional material that was shared out there that was showing students how to maximize their use of the career fair. So Bhavesh was saying that some of the information that was shared had to do with the spreadsheet, and that you're
Okay.
making notes, and then how this could be your tool, and that after you do that introspection as to which companies you want to reach out to, you start listing them out here and then group them accordingly, because this is your list. So make it work for you.
Okay.
Exactly, because then once you make the list according to your preference, then you start working on it, and like the post, it mentioned that if you have a free account on LinkedIn, you don't get depressed by that. You can just use Google, you can leverage Google's powerful search engine tool, and you can reach out, you can search for, like, you can just type in LinkedIn the job role you're searching for, and the target company, so that they will list all the people that who are currently working in that role and working at that organization that you are targeting.
Actually, I have a request to you, Bhavesh. Could you repost that in the LinkedIn group to some of these notes and then tag Yasha? So it's making more
Sure,
sense to
sure, I'll do that.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Bernie, I do have another request. Can you please share any of the previous material that was shared with the others? Or is it all there in the career services group on
It's in
LinkedIn so that
the
I can?
index.
It's there?
How much time do you have, Yasha? It's all in the index.
Oh,
That's
cool.
what the index is.
Yeah, I'll figure that out then. Thank you.
You're welcome. But actually, you asked that question because that is what the index is.
Okay.
I didn't plan it as an index, but it morphed to what it is today. But it's a collection of information that's been shared via the LinkedIn group from day one.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And Karthik is just sharing a Google Docs. Thank you, Karthik. If you want to click on that, Yasha, because after we end this call, that link is disappearing for you. So you could click that. Final questions. We're on our last 2 minutes.
I
appreciate your
finally
time.
have finally there's no background noise. I can talk a bit.
Yeah.
So I think for finding the jobs, I think I probably would go through, like, every company probably has like a big giant, like, find open position page, or like join our company type thing. And you can look through that and see like who hires. Because I know for some companies, for internships, it goes through the direct department who wants the intern, but then some companies like, oh, HR looks at it, and then the manager doesn't know who like works for them until later because it's not their responsibility. So like maybe go through that to see like who's gonna hire you. Is it the manager, the HR person, or you just connect with you can connect with maybe like a low level employee who probably has the time, because they probably can get it up to the manager rather than, or the manager gets it down to like the right people. Because HR might not know everyone who is at the right level for your information.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. So Yasha, Jason just kind of like fine tuned this further by saying that when you go to the job ads, there's a contact name. And by virtue of, what Bhavesh shared earlier, aside from LinkedIn, aside from Google, you get to research who. Remember when we started this conversation, it was finding advocates for you to move that job search forward. And it's not necessarily only the hiring managers, it's not only the HR people, but it's like even the support people within that organization.
Yeah.
So you can expand that by creating those relationships.
And also if the companies, and also some companies, if they're like, I think sizable, and they list out all their like services, they might have like a contact person, and that would be a good person to connect with.
Very good information. Thank you, Jason. Awesome, awesome.
To add to this
awesome.
thing, like I would like to say, I have reached out to coming here, after coming here, I've been reaching out to people. So mostly when I started out, when I was reaching out to HR people, they were saying that we really don't know if there will be a job position open, because that comes from what do you say, creation of a job role. If there is a need for a job role, the managers or technical person will reach out to us, and we will start posting about it, that we need someone in for a certain job role. So it's a chain process. You just can't like try to reach out to HR people and then say that, okay, I know that you guys have been in the past, you have you have recruited people for this job role, so is that job role still available, or are you still searching for that? Because that totally depends on the requirement. Like if there's a requirement of that job role in any team that they have in the organization, it totally depends on the manager. And like if they need someone in that job role, they will create a post to the HR. They will request to HR that we need someone in this job for this job role, and then the HR will list out hold a post on the website that we are looking for this. We are looking for a person who is confident in this technology, and then then this whole what do you say, job search, employee search
Okay.
happens.
So just to clarify what Bhavesh is saying, let me pull you guys back. And that Bhavesh is being very logical, saying that you don't necessarily speak to these HR people because they may not have direct connections to the hiring managers of the next jobs that are open. The reason I'm pulling you guys back is you guys are trying to follow a logical path. Remember when we started this conversation, we're saying we're finding advocates. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that direct line that you're going, but if you truly have a business relationship with somebody in HR, they may not have a job opening for the job that you were looking for, but if the business relationship was solid, what we're trying to bring about with this business relations is they could be that advocate for whatever job in the future. So don't forget that. I appreciate the perspective, Bhavesh, but that's kind of like from the smaller standpoint. I wanted to like pull you guys back a little bit in that it's okay to create business relations with somebody who isn't an obvious person who could help you with the next job that you looked at. We're just saying it's all about just creating business relationships because you don't know what's behind the closed door, so to speak, until you start that relationship. It doesn't have to always be logical. And I say this because I'm an engineer, just like you guys. I know how we like to think logically. It's not always logic.
Got it. I understand your perspective.
Cool. Awesome, guys. So we kind of like went a little bit over time. Thank you so much for attending. Please look for that post and I guess stay tuned to the next version where we will continue this conversation. So have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Have a
Have a
great
good
weekend.
Have a
weekend.
great weekend, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.